Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Stacy Raske. Say hi.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one. We were just talking about, before we started recording, how it's so nice when you get to show up and just be yourself and develop genuine connections. And that's how this podcast came about. Somebody's like, you need to meet Stacy. And when I met Stacy, I was like, you need to be on the podcast. And here we are.
So true. Those are the best, right? Where it's just those authentic connections and it's just real meets real. And we just get to create some more awesomeness together. And
yes.
Yeah. No.
Awesomeness amplified. I love it. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Well, business is,
yes.
As I say, the Cliff's Notes version for efficient networking is mind and business unfuckery. As that helps me, know who my people are. And if you get it, you get it. You're like, oh, I need you. And then other people are like, I don't get it. I think it's okay. You don't need to. However, the PC elevator pitch version, I help high-performing leaders and organizations implement the systems they need to elevate performance, people, and profit. And a lot of times it's as simple as time. Sometimes it's team. Sometimes it's tech. So that it allows me to kind of go both directions, whether it's the advising, consulting, mentorship, coaching side of what I do, leadership development side of what I do, or the business systems and automations side of what I do. And so there's a lot of marriage between the two. Sometimes they're segregated, just depends.
Yep. I see things very similarly. I've told people when your business isn't working, there's something wrong with the people, the process, or the profit. We like peas, the both of us.
I think we just like alliteration.
That is true. The writer in me is very, very satisfied with and plays on words.
Yes.
Those were always my favorite. I have tools from when I was a corporate copywriter. The rhyming dictionary, the thesaurus, the idiom dictionary. And yeah, that's.
And if we can acronym something, my military, military background is if there's an acronym for everything.
Well, I gotta say, after hearing both versions of that, I definitely prefer mind and biz unfuckery. Yes. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yes. I like that one too, but it's very process driven, right? And it is, there's always simple pathways to getting the result you want. And in those simple pathways, it helps create that safety and structure to eliminate how you're feeling in the moment.
I love that. You mentioned it briefly, but that's an interesting trajectory to go from military to business and mindset coach. Like, what was that journey like? Did you know immediately when you got out of the military, this is where you're going? Or
no?
I'm curious.
No, I went back to the should pathway when I got out. So I was medically discharged at the early 2004 after my tour in Iraq. And so I went right back to college. Just right back to the should, the same pathway I was beat into my head from early in life. You're going to go to college. You're going to graduate from high school. You're going to go to college. You're going to get a safe job. That's corporate safe job that pays well. And so I did. I got my 4-year degree in 3 years as a non-traditional student and then was recruited by Big Pharma. So I am a recovering pharmaceutical chemist.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that was a very, very unhealthy, toxic work environment that was just compounded. It was one variable that created like this perfect storm to my rock bottom moment, which was 10 years ago. And which I'm super grateful for, by the way. I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now because it was that big catalyst to investing in myself, which then people started noticing, because when you lose half your body weight, people notice, like, what are you doing? Teach me how to do it. So I got certified as a coach and kind of started that pathway of being of service, which I've always been called to do. But it's one of those industries where you've got to be a product of your product, which means you have to be doing the work and you have to be not only my own first client, but eventually always consistently investing in anywhere from 1 to 4 coaches or mentors or advisors or professionals at any given time to continue my own growth and expansion.
I have spent so much money on coaching.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm like
every one of my clients, I'm like, whatever you're getting is a steal for what I've invested.
Oh yeah. I've even seen it like last year, going over the books for taxes, and my accountant's going, okay, well, the percentage expenditure that you're making on coaching and live events has increased a little bit. And I'm like, it's investment. It will pay off in the future. It's fine. Well, we like to see it at this percentage of the revenue. Well, not this year. It's more this year.
But I think it's interesting because too many people get lost in how much of that directly translates into a financial ROI. You know, I mean, how many events you go to that even if you're there to learn nothing, it's all about who you get to meet. And, you know, even when you and I were chatting before getting on, I'm like, now I'm doing all these virtual coffees and just showing up free of attachment and expectation. And people are like, oh my gosh, I need what you're doing. Let's book a sales call. And I'm like, let's do it.
Yes.
Right? So
I held myself back for too long under this delusion of, you know, you talked about the should pathway. I did the same thing when I went back and got my master's degree. I don't know what else to do, so I should go back to school and figure it out, right? And then I came out of that with a business degree and this idea of what constitutes professionalism. And even like when I started this show, I was running into some difficulty with promoting posts on Facebook and stuff like that because they don't like the word ass, apparently. It's such a no-no. You're swearing.
The name of my book either. I can't run ads for my book.
Well, drop the name of the book. You mentioned it. Tell us.
Be a boss and fire that bitch.
Yes. So yeah, those of us that choose sweary words, we are definitely up against the odds when it comes to paying for advertisement. And you know what some jackoff said to me? Well, you should just change it to permission to kick butt. No, sir. No, absolutely not.
Even my devoutly religious friends are like, you must read this book. Like, I know it's got a word, but it's because that's how strong that inner critic is. And it's, you know, and that's the subtitle. It's quiet your inner critic and finally believe you're good enough. Because what you're learning to do is fire the bitch voice. And actually, what you're really doing is making friends with it because it's a messenger.
Yes. I do. I like that idea of the concept that like when this pops up, the inner critic, I heard somebody, it's so funny how all this synergy works, but I heard somebody say recently, that means that you already do love yourself. For those of you that are on a journey to like learn to love yourself, when your critic pops up, why do you keep trying? Right? Because some part of you does love yourself and the critic is just trying to help you get there, even though it's firing off in, you know, frankly, quite mean and stressy kind of ways sometimes, right? But that little voice is there to help you find the way forward. And if you can find a way to not get shut down by it and actually take action on it, you can grow from it.
Yeah. I always look at it as it's this messenger of telling you exactly where that growth edge is. And it's somewhere internal, because if it's a no, don't do that, or a who are you, or the, you know, whatever the storyline is that it's coming, or even something as simple as perfection or procrastination, there's a story that we consistently play. So when that's happening, it helps you understand, okay, am I in survival mode right now? If my stress is activated, my fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, I am incapable of moving from scarcity and fear into love and abundance. So it's a messenger.
Yeah. And that's important to acknowledge too. Like there's a lot of times where it is not possible for you to alter the state that you're in. And that's okay. That's where self-compassion comes in. That's where self-exploration comes in. For now is not forever. For any given state that you're in, whether you're all fired up and ready to go or you're super sad, like these things will pass. We just need to have faith in that, faith in ourselves, and just keep moving forward.
And then there's other times where you can activate a state change by simply changing your posture, changing your movement, engaging your senses, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
any of those opportunities. I mean, that's the big thing that I really leaned into this year in, again, being my own first client. I'm like, okay, I see where when I go into stress mode as this beautifully super powered neurodivergent, as many of us are, with all these awesome capabilities that there's acronyms for, right? The ADDs, the ADHD, the ASD,
Mm-hmm.
and the BPDs, and the,
Mm-hmm. I
all
like
the things. And
neurospicy.
neurospicy, right? I do love that you use neurospicy. Even the PTSD, right? So it's all of those things. It's all about regulating the nervous system. And the fastest way to do that is by engaging your senses, right? Everybody says you just need to get out of your head and into your body, but let's be more basal than that. And you just put your two fingertips together and you just start rubbing them with such intensity that you can feel the ridges on
Mm-hmm.
both fingertips,
Can I be so honest right now? This reminds me of the first time I got high.
right? I'm pretty sure I did that too.
I was like, oh, the ridges in my
The
fingertips. This is
ridges
so
on
cool.
your fingertips. Or when, a lot of people will use breath work or breathing techniques, but it's
Mm-hmm.
about feeling the sensation in the body in a
Mm-hmm.
deeper way. So, what is the temperature of the
Mm.
air going in the nostrils versus the temperature of the air going out? Right. So, you notice how you anchor in. This isn't I'm checking the box and doing it. It is
Mm-hmm.
I'm focusing on the experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing is when you get that focused and that present with your senses, and you can do it with sound, you can do it with smell or taste. You can even just sit and try to find each of your toes and your feet. And you're like, oh, where are my toes at in my space right now? But when you get that deeply present, it turns off survival
Yes.
like a light switch.
I heard somebody describe that as remembering, like being present allows you to acknowledge that you are safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there are situations
Yeah.
where you're not actually safe. Like, we're not talking about being, meditative if somebody's chasing you with a knife. That's no,
No.
please run. Absolutely save yourself. But like for most of us, when we're feeling that fight or flight, we're sitting at like right now, we're sitting at a desk, getting ready to
Sitting at a
type up a
desk.
letter, getting ready to hop on a call, something that is not actually dangerous. And we
Yes.
got to just tell ourselves, like right here, with
This
this
is
butt in the
not.
chair, I'm not in danger. It feels dangerous. I am not in danger. I am here. I feel this chair. I feel my fingertips. I feel my toes. We are safe.
And that's it. You are turning off survival brain because survival brain
Mm-hmm.
kicks in when you feel unsafe and that activates the stress response. And we see it all day long is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn is
Mm-hmm.
every one of our sabotaging behaviors, AKA control issues, are happening because we don't feel safe. So what do? We go into control as an attempt to create safety outside,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes through these different actions, even if that is inaction because we're in freeze.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
or procrastinating, which is also freeze.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and yeah, and perfectionism, I think, ties in with that perfectly. And that's like you. I think you said this earlier, but talking about this is an indication that you really care.
You go into the control because you care. And there's a
Yep.
lot to that need to create safety that's coming from that high level of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's also needing to create safety because most high empathy people also have this deep insecurity
Mm-hmm.
because we learned to deal with stress and trauma as a kid by paying attention to external things. So we turn into the
Mm-hmm.
people pleaser, which means our identity becomes attached to external things.
Yep.
So when we're struggling in that space that we care, it is because our identity is still tied so much to external performance or external conditions. What will they
Mm-hmm.
think of me? Well, there's a reason that has been part of our survival programming. So, like, we're not sitting here, people just get stuck. Oh, I'm such a people pleaser, or why is this so hard? And I'm like, but we've got to understand where this comes from and why we do it. And for me, this is the simplest pathway to changing the behavior that will help get down to the root of the iceberg to change the beliefs, which is if you turn off survival, you won't go into this cascade of needing to create safety with behaviors that kept you alive.
Yep.
It did its job. It kept you alive. But at this point, it's all about certainty. Well, your primitive brain is certain you'll survive, even if this is not serving you or your business goals.
Well, I'll go back to one thing that I wrote down and wanted to circle back to is when you talked about ROI, because I've been in that trap, and I think it ties to the judgment of what other people will think of us and people pleasing as well. Because my own coach said this to me, I think just a couple months ago. Remember, there are other forms of ROI with people working with you than just dollars in, dollars out. And I was like, what do you mean? I am a direct response copywriter and a marketing strategist. And of course, I need to be able to tell people if you invest X dollars with me, you can expect Y dollars in return. And he goes, and they can also expect clear strategy, ideas and inspiration. They can get their work done faster, buy back some of their time. Like there's a lot of other benefits to somebody working with you than ROI. And I think that's true for a lot of businesses, but it's so easy to get caught up in the messaging that we get all over the internet of like money, 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 money. That's not all there is.
That is not at all. And it's hitting into all of those pain points. But this is the missing piece. When people go into their crafting their ideal client avatar, they often miss, they'll talk about the pain points. They'll talk about the results. But what they forget to talk about is what are the benefits of those results. And so as we're going a little deeper into painting that picture, now that becomes the language you're using, right? As a copywriter or for your own stuff, that becomes the language you're using. I always say is what if you work with women, and you're doing that inner work, what is she calling up her girlfriend, and bitching about over a glass of wine with her girlfriend, right? Or, if you're dealing with businesses or teams, what are the employees bitching about at the water cooler? Right? Those are the thing. And it's using their language around it. But it's so interesting how many people forget, because I'm sure you're having to teach them this all the time, is getting into what are the benefits of those results. Sure, they want more time, but what does this mean? This is, now they can actually be present with their spouse. Now they can, go to their kids' game. Like, what does that time allow them to do?
I feel like that's fantastic. And that's calling up. Okay, so I'm just going to give this strategy away for anybody that's listening. If you don't talk to your people, then talk to your people. You'd be surprised what comes up when you just go to people and say, hey, I'm trying to put into words what exactly it is that I help people with. And I loved the work that we did together. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. If that makes you deathly afraid, like I can't ask somebody how I did, then hire someone. There are people out there that will go interview your folks. And I actually did this for a client once too, where I was the one going and interviewing her clients to hear what they loved about working with her. And I framed it as, this is just between us. She's not going to know who said what. I'm not going to be like, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said about working with you? You need to. No, that's not what this is about. But I just want to hear in your own words, what is working for you, what you love, what keeps you coming back here, what the experience was like, right? And when you interview somebody live like that on the spot and they're forced to articulate themselves, that's what I love about this show too. You spit gold when you can be unscripted and just be yourself and lean into that thing that's got you fired up or furious or whatever, like human. I love it.
Well, and that's why I always record even my virtual coffees and my coaching calls and things now. It's using that video content. And I trained my AI bot to find just those gold nugget quotes from me. Not their stuff, but just that genius that happens because it's the right mix of energy and something comes out in this really powerful way. And it's like, let's get that snippet and turn it into content.
I love that. I love that. See, we can move much more fast, much more multi-purpose these days, and never let it be all about the one thing. I don't even know if that's clear the way that I said that, but I feel like we've spent so much time in the past getting used to the fact that I have to create an email and now I have to create a video and now I have to create this.
Leverage.
You can create a video and turn it into 20 different things.
Yeah, it's all about leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And AI is one of those leverage tools. Automation is one of
Yep.
those leverage tools. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just any opportunity to say, one, if there's something you're doing more than once, can you automate it?
Yep.
And if there's something that you're doing one time, can you turn it into multiple impact opportunities? So it's one to many, right? One to many, whether it's one to many with your team, one to many with, like you just said, with your content strategy that you did, right? So good. But it's crafting that leverage point. People just get so bogged into the trap of, I need to better manage my time. And I'm like, do
Mm-hmm.
you want to trade time for money? No. Then why are you managing your time?
Mm-hmm. Ah,
And they're like, what?
yeah. It's like the lifestyle that I want to live is not recreating my old job for myself. My old job, by the way, had me working 18 to 20-hour days sometimes at crunch time. And you
Mm,
know why? Like, this was the eye opener for me because I would never let anything break because I was a perfectionist.
mhm.
I could see the problems coming and I would just work extra hard to prevent those things from happening. And as a result, did I get a reward with time off? No. Angie's really efficient at all this stuff. She gets more work. I have zero desire to recreate that for myself now that I'm my own boss. Nope. We're gonna implement Parkinson's law here, and it's gonna take the time that I give it. And after that, I'm gonna go rest because I'm a human and I deserve rest.
Mhm.
I don't have to earn it. That's the fabulous thing. I don't have to earn any of these things that I want for myself. And it's okay to want because you're a human being.
Mhm.
And human beings want things. I don't know why that one came out, but apparently it's coming out. So there you go.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the things or the experiences. I always say it's the be, do, have, and experience. Because I think fundamentally that's the benefit of the result, right? The result's the have, but it's really for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure people are going to ask, what do you manage if you're not managing your time? Well,
Yeah.
it's manage your energy. That's a
Ooh.
renewable resource, just like, and that's where you leverage. So
Yes.
when you're starting to curate your schedule based on what energizes you, and then the things that drain you, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, mind you, are your superpowers. You might be great at something, but if it drains you, it is a superpower and not your zone of genius. Your zone of genius is your 20%. That is your 20% that gets you 80% of the results is your genius. And it feels effortless. And it's why most of us undervalue it because it feels
Yes.
easy.
That's my biggest pet peeve is how
Yeah.
many of us are wandering around operating under this. It's a delusion, quite frankly, but because
Yeah.
it's easy for me, it's not valuable.
Yeah.
It's a capitalist, like,
Generally, that's
yeah.
exactly. But that's the old programming that says I must struggle, suffer, or sacrifice to prove my worth or deservability, which is total bullshit
Mm-hmm.
and a whole nother episode. So,
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
but it's managing your energy. If you're really and the things that drain you, you either strategically pepper between things that energize you,
Mm-hmm.
or this is where more of the leverage comes in with technology or team is, well, you can always eliminate it because there's a lot of just crap we don't need to do because it's our perfectionist brain or whatever saying you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. But that's when you delegate to team or delegate to hiring somebody like you to say, write my copy
Mm-hmm.
or automate. You hire somebody
Mm-hmm.
like me that's going to say, hey, let's get your systems dialed in to where we're sabotage proofing your success because the systems are going to run regardless of how you feel today. And
Mm-hmm.
you're still good and taken care
Mm-hmm. Ah, I
of.
love
Oh,
that so much.
side note, here's the missing piece nobody talks about is alternate. So they'll always say eliminate, delegate, automate. But
Mm-hmm.
my fourth is alternate. And it's
Hmm.
finding an alternate version of a task that does energize you. So, for example, if Zoom meetings drain you, move it to in person if you can. If the in person ones light you up,
Yeah.
there you go. It's an
Oh,
alternate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Why did I never even think about that?
I don't know. It just popped in my brain one day. I was like, oh, let's swap C's. Okay, let me rhyme that. alternate.
Alternate, yeah. Well, I mean, I love in-person meetings, and those are a special kind of draining too. I'm actually an ambivert, not an extrovert. Although a
Aren't
lot of
we
people,
all ambiverts?
yeah, I think
Really,
so.
really,
I think
yeah.
so.
No,
I mean, I know some true extroverts, but
true. Yeah, I do
yeah,
too. No, most of us are ambiverts.
yeah. There's definitely situations where I get energy from people, and
Yeah.
certain situations, like I've been to masterminds for 3 days, where by day 3, I'm like, I love all of you dearly. Go away. I need to be by myself.
Yeah, I've gotten good at managing my energy and just really good with my boundary bubble and being in control of like, nobody can steal my energy. I'm not taking on anybody else's shit. Like, I take my breaks, I leave, I go outside, I do my, I had to learn.
I love that.
You got to learn.
I feel like that ties in perfectly to another thing that I wrote down and underlined several times, which was being your first client. Did that like pop into your head too, or was that just born out of knowing that you needed to go through the process in order to take other people through it?
Well, hindsight is where I recognized I was my first client. And it's basically at the end of the day, and this is just might be part of my own values, right? Where being in integrity is important. And so if I'm not walking the path, I'm not able to guide others on it. And it's just about being in integrity, not being one of those coaches, trainers, mentors, advisors who's telling you how to build a, 8-figure business when they've never made one. Now there's massaging numbers. They might have an industry where if you take that and create, plug that in over the industry over here that somebody else is in, the percentages and the numbers would relate. So, I mean, we can science the shit out of anything to make it legit. So just saying. However, for the most part, so I'm not going to, because I know somebody's gonna be like, well, you know what I'm saying here. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. So, but it's if you've not done those things, why are you going to sell that? If you've not been paid, 5 or 6 figures to speak on a stage, how are you selling a course or a program to teach others to do the same thing?
And
right?
I feel like that's where fake it until you make it has gone off the freaking rails.
Yeah.
All you have to do is have the confidence. Well, yeah, and experience counts for something too. And you can get experience in anything that you want to do, but don't pretend like you've done more than you have. You're only doing yourself and your clients a disservice.
Right? There's nothing wrong with the person who's just starting to build their speaking career and is also great at helping others do it. Just not positioning in your creative copywriting to make it look, or your social media highlight reel, right? Make it look like it's more, that you're selling more than what you've done. That's it. And there's such an integrity, which is why I've kind of broke up with the word coach, because I'm just like, bah. But that's my thing, is like, I need to be very embodied as a leader. I know that is part of my journey, and it's just teaching other people. Showing other people, right? Being that example for other people of what an embodied leadership means for them on their journey in their industry. Yeah.
I love that. I think it's important to show people what it is versus just tell them how to do it. And I think that's the other key difference with what you're talking about. Somebody that doesn't have the experience in one way or another is basically just telling you what to do, where it's always been much more impactful to show people. Yeah. That's how we are as humans.
For sure.
Action.
Yeah.
Taking action.
So I always got better results working with like coaches and mentors and spiritual advisors and things, faster results than I did in, say, like therapy, where it's a lot of like regurgitating the same stuff.
Yeah. I think it's the combination. If I had to articulate why I prefer coaching over therapy, is that it's not just about surfacing the feelings, it's about moving through it and taking action to get to the next step. And that's what I like. My coaches, I've hired every single one of them for, there's nowhere to hide. Please hold my feet to the fire, because that's who I want to be over there. And if I'm left to my own devices, I tend to make excuses as to why I can't be her. So like, please help me be brave enough to step up into her and not avoid the things that I'm afraid of. So that's why I hire folks.
And I think the most important piece is always remembering you're already her.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. You already are. It's
That's
what is
fantastic.
that bullshit story, belief, or programming paradigm that's not yours that you're still buying into?
Mm. Yep.
That's what's getting in the way. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
not getting in your way. It's just a programming, We're always updating our phones and our
Yep.
software on our, our computer. That's all it is. We just are updating our software and
Yep.
sometimes our hardware too.
Update and reboot.
Yeah.
Update and reboot. So, okay. So you obviously have been in this game, whether we want to call it coaching or not, for a long, long time. No, and I'm with you. Like the word coach has been kind of diluted to the point of almost meaningless. Like you can be a coach on how to get greener grass, right? And if that's you, I'm not making fun of you, but I'm kind of making fun of you, but I love you.
I mean, it's still a transformation, right?
It's true. It's true. It's true. So you've been doing this for a while.
The grass is greener.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't help
Always
myself.
on the other side.
I couldn't help myself.
Well, I mean, speaking of, so was it, it's going to be a stupidly phrased question, but I'm going to just say it anyway. Was it all sunshine and roses from the moment that you jumped into this career, or were there some moments where you were like, fuck this, I'm done?
Yeah, for sure. I needed to burn it all down. I've been through a few of those, what I call Phoenix moments.
Yeah, I like that iconography imagery.
Yeah,
one of
sure.
those. Yes.
Well, and that's what it was. This last time. So here we are at the recording of this is April 24. The last time I went through a deep burn this shit to the ground moment, my big Phoenix moment this last time was September 22. And something had happened in July of 22 that just really shook me to the core, because it was the first time that I had gone into participating in a larger networking group. And I was all in because this was my first time being in a room filled with people just like myself. Until I realized over time, I was like, okay, there's a lot of value. But as I got deeper into this ecosystem, which I fully opened up to, I invested in emotionally because I was never really emotionally connected to my family. So I was like, it's my entrepreneur family. We're all fucked up and it's awesome. And we're doing our work. It's amazing. We're all high speed. We can keep up with each other in conversation. And I'm not weird.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not weird. We're all big thinkers and visionaries. So there was a big shakeup where it triggered a lot of junk in me. And what was coming up that it took me like 3 months to figure out was the junk it was bringing up was all my family trauma, where I opened myself up emotionally, where they're preaching, this is your family of choice and all of this stuff. And basically that family broke up in July. And it was a lot of just stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it's like divorcing and just like, this is like a family breakup. This is like so weird, but it was my own trauma right? We talk about the inner critic, the messenger was, this is what's coming. Well, it took me sitting in the suffering and I was sitting in the suffering, and it's like, it was a stress. It was there. I had to respond. I was like, whatever. And I'm just rationalizing and I'm going through work and we're just going through the motions. And this burn it down moment came from ignoring the depth and breadth of what I was experiencing, what I was feeling. And people need to understand we have the emotion, which is the trigger, right? The initial response is this physiological, neurological response. The feeling is the story we tell ourselves about it, the meaning we assign. And the story that I was starting to really kind of tell myself around what, like, I'm feeling this discontent. I'm feeling all this old junk coming out. And then I'm hyper rationally, it's fine, whatever. So basically I'm staying in this ecosystem that is massively out of alignment and integrity with me. That's the pain. I needed the second I was triggered to leave. And from a childhood that's like a big T trauma, right? I can rationalize out of any red flag. Right? So, right, we all do. So I'm like, no,
I was going to say, me too.
No, we all do, right? So I'm like, no, it's me. It's my shit. Like, I need to stay. This was the lie that I'm telling myself, and ignoring the
Mm-hmm.
feeling that no, this is massively out of alignment and integrity. And my
Mm-hmm.
staying there and rejecting of my truth impacted everything. This was catching up with my health because I am in
Mm.
a rapidly unsafe stress response. It's crazy, like high level
Yeah.
stress. This is impacting my business. This is impacting my marriage. Like I am melting down inside, getting to this complete breakdown, burn it down.
Mm.
But I didn't realize when I hit that breakdown, burn it down point that it was an internal problem. I was
Mm.
for weeks and weeks and weeks in my fucking business. I hate it. I'm so over it. I'm done. Right. I'm projecting outwards. I'm done. I am ready to just hit delete and burn it all to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was ignoring was the fact that what was burning away was the version of myself that no longer served me.
Mm.
And until I accepted my truth and said, oh, old me says, no, it's you, just stay.
Yeah.
Right. And that was this old trauma story that needed to burn away. And it was part of that old wounded identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I created this external experience of pain because I was ignoring my truth. And so I tell people all the time, every battle you are fighting externally is a symptom of the war you're waging against yourself.
Mm. Oh. Oh. It's just powerful. We're just going to sit with that for a second. I do. I agree with you that a lot of the stuff that we are suffering from is some sort of manifestation or expression of old stories that we are having trouble letting go of, right? And so, and this is not to make light of trauma or anything, because I definitely know that we are all suffering to one extent or another. But it also can mean that you see a boogeyman that's not actually there. Like the trigger response from feeling the trauma can lead to, I've seen that, I'm trying to articulate myself on this one, but like I've seen it with newer copywriters that I've coached who are starting their business, where like they instantly jump to the conclusion that this person was late on a payment, so they're trying to screw me. This person said this to me, and so they're trying to do X. Yeah, like we're ascribing intent.
Assigning.
Yeah, like ascribing intent to other people. And I was like, my life changed when I went, I don't know their intent. I'm just going to assume that it's positive, and we're going to get to the bottom of this because I like this person and I think they like me. And if they don't, well, then that'll become obvious pretty soon, won't it?
Yeah. Well, and
We'll have some evidence.
It's focusing on what you actually have control over, which is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you clarify that boundaries are about what you will and will not allow in your bubble, and you cannot control somebody else's behavior, then if they're late on a payment, you just have to focus on your boundary of, okay, are you communicating with them about said boundary? Have you clarified your late payment rules in advance? And if this is the first time, then you're like, oh shit, maybe I need to have a late payment clause. Okay, cool.
Yep.
That's what you have control over moving forward. You can nudge, how many times? And at what point do you hold your boundaries and say, guess what? I'm not working on your project. Even now, I'm not working on your project until you make payment. Super simple. Love you. Peace out.
Yeah.
And
that's, you get to decide that. You can let go of all of the intention and the stress behind that and be like, well, cool. This route is not one that I'm willing to pursue anymore. It's causing me too much stress, too much anxiety. It's not actually paying off. I'm going to go follow this other person that I like over here a hell of a lot more. And be like, can we do some more projects together? I got some space that just opened up in my calendar. It's amazing how that works.
Right. And it is. And there's a lot of discomfort, and it's super scary letting go of what's keeping you safe in order to receive what it is that you want. Because a lot of the stuff that keeps you safe keeps you stuck.
Oh, I love that. That's genius. Like I heard somebody once, and this one changed my life when they unpacked it for me. Nature abhors a vacuum. Right.
Yep.
And to me, that meant I have to create the space for some opportunity to come up and fill that. Like I have to be the one that says, okay, jumping off the cliff now. I trust myself to figure it out on the way down. Here we go. Gonna have fun. Every single time I've landed on my feet, guys.
Every time.
Every time. every time. I'm still here.
It's as simple as just leaning back. That's it. It creates a vacuum, right? This is the difference between the masculine energy of action and leaning forward and chasing versus leaning back, activating the feminine and moving into attraction.
Ooh.
It creates
I've
the
never
vacuum.
heard it phrased that way.
Oh yeah. Like I could go, that'd be a whole nother episode talking about bringing in the energetics of success. But that's how you create a vacuum. But it's as simple as, because, hustle culture is like, keep your foot on the gas. No, let's coast a little bit. Like you don't even have to pump the brakes, but you just relax a second. But that creates the vacuum.
I love
beautiful stuff.
We don't have to be pedal to the metal all the time. We can drift sometimes. There's a big truck floating on by. Let me get in their wake.
Thank you, Days of Thunder, for teaching us all how to draft.
Well, that comes from, I have 2 parents who are longtime truck drivers. And so I grew up with the likes of Convoy. Well, I didn't see Convoy until last year. That was fascinating. But Smokey and the Bandit? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Had that whole thing memorized. Yeah. The trucker drama. We even had
Sylvester Stallone.
Or Burt Reynolds. Mr. Mustache. Yeah. And Jerry Reed. Well, Tangent City. All of this, I think, just further reinforces this idea of it doesn't have to be perfect. Just put yourself out there and trust yourself to figure it out, because you've survived 100% of things that life has thrown your way so far, to be perfectly cliche. But you're here, I'm here, we're here. Let's do the damn thing.
Survivor. Yeah. What is the worst thing that can happen? And I know what that is. And it is regret of not living up to my full potential. I love my mom dearly, and she's a great example of the I'll do it when. She's always waited. I mean, there's been a couple big things she's done, and yet the big purpose driven things for her, the big impact calling things for her. No. And she's so amazing.
Put it off until someday.
Yeah. So amazing. And I'm not sure at 60 plus years if there's going to be she's 66 this year, 67 this year. Are we going to hit that? I'll do it when. Do we hit when? Well,
and I think I think a lot of the times we ask ourselves what's the worst that can happen, then we can go into catastrophic thinking. I'm very conscious these days of doing what I call swinging the pendulum. Okay, well, if we went all the way over here into what are all my worst case scenarios, now I need to swing it back over here into what are all my best case scenarios.
What ifs?
And
balance the what ifs, right? It's not just bad, but that goes back to that activating the senses to turn off the scarcity mode. Because remember, you cannot find abundance in that state of survival. It is only fear and scarcity. So if you're swinging the pendulum, make sure you do those little exercises that I taught. Turn in the thrive brain. You can turn on the abundance, and then you'll see what if in a positive light. Yes.
Oh, I love this. I kind of want to keep ranting for 4 more hours, but I think we're going to just have to have a follow-up. We mentioned 3 or 4 spare topics in this one, just offhand. So in the meantime, thank you for being such an awesome guest. Please tell us, where can we learn more about you and your business? Drop the links.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for having me. This is such a great chat. I knew it would be this co-creative awesomeness beyond next level stuff. So the simplest thing is stacyraske.com. That'll always have kind of whatever the most pressing thing is we're focusing on as far as events, workshops, whatever. Could be a link tree. Who knows? It'll just guide you in the right direction. And then on all of the respective socials, thank God I was born with a branded name, Stacy Raske, on all of the socials, and it is me. And if you message me, if you DM me, I will respond to you.
Fantastic. I feel that too. There's not other Angie Coleys out there that I know. So it's wonderful being branded like that. Right. I will make sure that there are clickable links in the show notes so that they can find you as easily as possible. And thank you so much for being a wonderful guest.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.